Well, that's pretty important, especially in the summer. What happens is if that tire's low and you're running 80,000 pounds and you've got one that's, say, 60 pounds and the other's at 100, that tire's gonna heat more than the one at 100, and then you've got big problems, especially if you're running caps. You see a lot of recaps all over the highway. So you've got to look at your tires all the time, make sure they're inflated, make sure they're good, they're not wearing, no steels hanging out, stuff like that. It's pretty important. Well, the balancing, especially on the front end, a lot of people don't balance the back. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But the front end is pretty important so you don't get vibration in the steering wheel, because then that wears your front end parts, your steer shaft U-joints and stuff like that. So then alignment's really important so you're not fighting it, or uneven tire wear. If it's pulling left, you're always steering to the right. A lot of guys will run those on the drive axles, but on some of the smaller tires, on these specialized trailers, they can't run that big a tire. So they're always putting new on there because they really heat, because they're running a lot faster in a mile. They're spinning, sometimes 600 revolutions a minute, where some of them are spinning like 400. So not as much, they don't get as hot, but they're still running the same amount of weight. So that little tire, they usually put brand new on that. So if you can run caps and get away with it, it saves you some money and stuff like that. And the casings are good, you're in good shape. If not, it's best to run new ones. Whatever a guy prefers, on tires, but good name brand tires. And when they get down, because DOT spec is 2/32 on the back, 4 on the front for the steer. And if they get down that low, you should be replacing them anyhow. Mountain driving's a lot harder on them with the curves and everything than just straight out on the highway, like going from here to Nebraska or here down to Phoenix. So it just kind of depends. The owner-operators do that quite a bit. Everybody's supposed to. A lot of times the owner-operators don't have anybody looking at their trucks but them. So they're gonna do a super good pre-trip. You get under there at the end of the day, you look at it, it's fine. The next morning you come up, there's a pile of oil under there from a leak or a filter or seal or a vent line or something like that. It's always a good idea to look at it really close before you get back on the highway. We're seeing a lot more, especially in the Riders and Penske's, a lot of automatics coming out and everything. But if that doesn't have, say, 1 inch, 2 inches of free play on your clutch and is letting out real high, then it'll start slipping, then you premature wear the clutch on it. And those things are anywhere from $3 to $4 grand to change depending on what you find once you get in there. It's super important to make sure the clutch is in good shape. And that's changed a lot lately. A lot of guys are going to synthetic, where they can run a lot longer than they used to be able to. Some guys are still running conventional, but everything's spec'd out at an average of what it should run if it's run at the correct temperature. We oil sample everything we change and send it off to make sure that there's no antifreeze in the oil, there's no fuel in the oil, you don't have a leaky air filter where you're dragging a lot of dirt in, you're getting a lot of carbon and stuff down there. So that's pretty important, because the oil change is way cheaper than building your engine. They've got them where they kick them up, the idle about 1,000 and stuff like that. Everybody's got these little motors on the side that run. There's different kinds. Some go in the back of the sleeper, some go on the frame, the IPUs, and those things are the best deal to run, because then it saves you from running your engine. And then a lot of places now, especially like in California, they won't let you run your engine. You have to have one of those or something comparable. So it's best not to idle it. You don't have to, especially in the winter, because you don't keep temperature up, and then the fuel washes down the liners and then you start wearing the rings and everything else. So that depends on the mileage. The Cat, the Cummins, the Detroit, Mercedes, all those, they have a specified mileage of what they like to see. You should do it. That's changed a lot over the years and everything like that. Sometimes if a guy runs real hard and he's not just on the road at 70 miles an hour the whole time, he's in traffic, this, that, and the other thing, it'll have more of an effect on the valves injector setting than just a constant run at the right temperature. So it's kind of whatever a guy decides to do, what works good. A lot of times the first overhead will be kind of crazy, and after that they're pretty much normal unless you lose an injector or you have a valve wear out or something like that. Anymore in traffic, everybody seems to be really rolling anymore, and that's hard on their brakes and everything like that. But a lot of these trucks are governed at 65, 70, 75, where they can't go any faster than that. Anytime you're in that engine then you're using more fuel than you need to. And I tell you, years ago when a guy went from 6.5 to 7.1 in mileage, and he figured that out, what savings that is to his bottom line, the owner-operators, that's a big savings there. So the slower and closer to the speed limit you can go and, you know, not roll constantly, then the better you're going to get for fuel mileage, longer the engine's going to last.